It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood from coast to coast and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Joining me is Brenda Michaels, author of the new book, The Gift of Cancer, A Miraculous Journey to Healing. Brenda's here to talk about how she was able to turn a cancer diagnosis into a gift, even when she was told she had less than 1 year to live, and that was 24 years ago. Brenda is a radio host, inspirational speaker, and a member of the advisory board for the Emerald Heart Cancer Foundation. Welcome, Brenda. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Joan, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Brenda, your story is an amazing story of inspiration. I can't even imagine hearing the words you have cancer once, let alone 3 times. And the last time basically being told that this was it. You had less than a year to live. So how were you able to handle this situation from the first time through the last?
Well, it was very, very challenging. Of course, it's terrifying when you hear a diagnosis of cancer. That just sends shockwaves through your entire system, which it did me all 3 times. And the third time I was diagnosed, I really crashed because, I had made it through 2 times. I'd had surgery. I was told that I was okay, that the cancer was gone, that I was cured, et cetera, and I believed the doctors. And because I believed them, and because that's all I knew to do was to go to the doctor and listen to them, I just followed what their protocol was in that regard and went on with my life. And the third time this happened, I was devastated and I was really angry. I was angry at the doctors because they told me I was cured, and yet they had found cancer a third time. I was angry at God. I was angry at myself. I was just really angry, and I was really hurt, in a lot of pain. And I had to move through that to get to the other side.
So Brenda, the first 2 times you did what would be quote unquote traditional treatment, chemotherapy, perhaps radiation.
No,
You didn't.
no, I didn't do any of that. I only did the surgeries. I never had chemo or radiation through any of them. I only had surgery.
So you opted for surgery. What was your rationale for not doing the chemo, even the first time? What made you make that decision early on?
The first time, they were skeptical about doing it. They said I really didn't need to. They didn't think. They thought they got clean margins. And so it was up to me. And they really were not pushing me to do it. So I said, fine, I'm just going to go on with my life. The second time, they thought they got clean margins again, and it was pretty much that attitude the second time, so I went with it. The third time, they were adamant about me doing chemotherapy. And that's when I started to really take a look, Joan, at my life and take a look at why is my body creating this cancer? What is really going on here? And when I went to my doctors, both the surgeon and the oncologist that my surgeon had sent me to have chemotherapy, I asked them both, what is causing this? And neither one of them could give me a real answer about what was causing the cancer. And I knew then that if I didn't get to the core issues, the core reason why my body was so completely out of balance, that cancer was running amok in my body and it was going to steal my life, I knew if I didn't do that, I had no hope of living, even with chemotherapy. And when I began to start questioning in that way, things began to shift with me, and I began to tune in to my body, and I began to do some breathing, and I began to listen to what my body was telling me. And when I was asking about chemotherapy, I would get like a fist in the pit of my stomach. and it hurt. And I thought about that, and I went, wow, is that really what my body wants? Is that what is it giving me a message that if I go to chemotherapy, that's not going to work, that's not going to be good for me? So I started asking those questions. And every time I would ask those questions, I'd get that really tight fist in my stomach. And then I asked about other things. I don't know about other things. I don't know if there's something else out there. But if I did something else, could that be better for me? And that fist would just start to lessen. And I started really paying attention to that as a signal that my body was telling me, that something was telling me I couldn't go the traditional route. That wasn't going to work for me. And I paid attention to it, and I finally built up the courage to honor that. So I said no to the chemo, even though my doctor said without it, I had maybe a year to live, maybe more. He felt 5 years with the chemo, but maybe a year to live or so before the cancer would metastasize, and there'd be nothing they could do for me.
So, Brenda, what did you do differently the third time around? You knew you need to do something outside of the realm of chemotherapy. What did you do? Did you make dietary changes? Did you change your lifestyle?
I changed everything. I changed from the inside out, and I did make dietary changes, and I went to a doctor, a phenomenal doctor in New York, Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez, who helped me on a physical program to help me detox my body, to get on a really clean diet, to eliminate all the toxins and chemicals, including toxic relationships in my life. That part he helped me with. The other part was I went inside, and I learned to meditate, and I began to pray. And I was raised a Christian, but I was never a practicing Christian or ever really spiritually involved in my life. And this time I really dug in, and I became very spiritually involved in my life. And it's really interesting, Joan, because when I did that, when I made that decision, when I committed to healing from the inside out, to looking at emotional issues that weren't healed, to looking at relationship issues that weren't healed, to really feeling and sensing into where I was wounded still on the inside, what I was holding on to, why I wasn't happy, why I lived in a lot of fear and trepidation, why I was such a people pleaser, why I didn't take better care of myself and I always put people before me and everyone else, and why I could never say no to something. I was always saying yes when a lot of times I meant no, so I was betraying myself. I just began to look at all of that to see if that was part of that dis-ease that was going on inside of me, and it was. And so I began to attract people and books and things to help me along this journey to learn to shift and change and heal those places inside. And I really feel the inner healing is absolutely essential when you're dealing with illness and disease, because even science has proven now, doctors have come out and said what's going on emotionally with you and spiritually, when there is a disconnect, when there is a lot of turmoil that's unresolved within a person, it shows on the outside of their life, in their relationships, a job they may hate, whatever, that affects the body. And I was in a lot of turmoil in my life, and I was a very unhappy person, and I wanted to know why.
Brenda, what did your doctor say when you returned to them a different person? I mean, and they saw the cancer going away. I mean, were they asking you what you did? Was anyone interested?
Actually, when I told my surgeon and my oncologist that I had decided not to do the chemotherapy and I was going to go a different route, at that time I called it an alternative therapy. I didn't even discuss what I was doing with myself emotionally, etc. But I told them I was going to do an alternative therapy. They had to release me as a patient. They could not be responsible for me because in the medical model, that is not an acceptable protocol. And I understood. I had really great doctors, and I understood that they could no longer monitor me. And the Dr. Gonzalez is an MD of immunology. He is a doctor. He's a member of the AMA. So he was a doctor, and so I aligned with his protocol and did his protocol on a physical level. I ran into one of the doctors 7 years later I was at an event, in Los Angeles, and I ran into him, and he actually spotted me across the room and came over and tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around and he said, "Oh my God, you look amazing." And he was shocked to see that I was still alive. And he said to me, "I don't know what you're doing, I don't know what you did, but whatever it is, keep doing it, because I'm really surprised to see you, and I'm really shocked at how good you look." And I tried to share with him what I was doing, and he wasn't open to it.
Yeah, that's the part that always amazes me because I would think that they would say, outline it, write it down, and I'm going to prescribe this to everyone. But I guess we're getting there. We're getting there. And books like yours are helping us to get there. And Brenda, you say that your book isn't only for people with cancer. Who else can benefit from what we're talking about today?
Well, when we're talking about disease, we're talking about dis-ease. And when we have a dis-ease inside of us, when we live in mild to moderate, even more serious anxiety and fear, when we have a lot of people, a lot of relationships that are rocky, there's a lot of unforgiveness that sits inside, unforgiveness for people that we feel have harmed us, unforgiveness for ourselves, when we live in a lot of self-betrayal, when we're people pleasers, when we lose our jobs suddenly, when our relationships go south, whatever it is, that's dis-ease within the body. There's not peace inside of us. We have a lot going on emotionally, and 9 times out of 10, we're not attending to that. We act out our emotions, but we're not allowing our emotions, our feelings, to be felt all the way through about a situation, and then to look at that situation from a more neutral standpoint so that we can heal those situations. If you lose your job, you're going to be in a lot of dis-ease. And if you sit and ruminate and make up a story, and when we make up stories, what happens is first we perceive something. How we perceive that situation is extraordinarily important. If we perceive it as life and death, if we perceive it like my life is falling apart, it's never going to be the same again, if we perceive it from those very tension-causing, stress-causing places, and we hold on to that, and when we do that, we start to build a story around that. When we build a story, what we do is we put belief into that story, and now we've created a belief or several beliefs around a story we've created around what we've perceived. And usually we will perceive something from the most negative place because that's how the mind offers it up. And then the mind wants to solution it. So the mind will go through hoops and jumps and acrobats and flops to figure it out. But it was created at the level of the mind. It wasn't created at the level of our spirit of who we really are. All problems are created at that level of the mind, and even Einstein said you can't solve a problem at the level it was created. That's why you can't think your way out of a problem. You can't think your way out of a health issue. You have to shift and change and transform what's inside, what's stuck. Emotions are energy in motion. So when you have a feeling and you don't let that feeling come up and go all the way through you and breathe into that feeling and process that feeling through, it sticks, that energy, that emotion, energy in motion, sticks somewhere in the body. And it'll stick in an organ somewhere, and it weakens that part of the body. Well, think about how many stuck emotions are in people and how weakened their body is because of that. And those weakened areas will show perhaps later on disease or some type of illness. It's really the only way the body can get our attention because we're not in tune with our bodies. We're not in tune with who we really are, this spirit being animating this body that we're walking around in. We're too distracted on the outside to be that tuned in, so we don't pay attention. And a lot of times we don't want to deal with our problems because we're way too busy or it's way too painful. And so this is really what gets us to go off the rails. And so it doesn't matter whether it's cancer or you just lost your job or your husband suddenly cheated on you and you just found out and now divorce is imminent. It doesn't matter what the issue is. You can take the same principles, the same way of healing those issues, And when you begin to heal those issues from the inside out, your outward world changes.
The book is The Gift of Cancer, A Miraculous Journey to Healing by Brenda Michaels. If you'd like to get more information about Brenda, you can visit her website, intentionalshift.com. Brenda, thank you so much for being here with us today. This is an amazing story of inspiration and hope for anyone dealing with the challenges that you just spoke about. And I hope that people will get a copy of your book to really see that there really is the possibility of healing when you work from the inside out. So thank you so much for being here.
And Joan, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, take part in the book club, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.